Good morning. As you can probably tell, there's few changes going on this morning. I'm going to be subbing in for Ron. So the goal for today, I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to try to keep you all awake. But thank you, seriously, Ron, for letting me come up here and do this. Thank you to the elders for giving me the opportunity. I'm excited. Things can be great. But on a more serious note, I got the idea for this lesson because one night I was trying to go to bed, and as I was trying to go to sleep, I roll over, and I look at the wall, and there's this light shining onto the wall. So of course, naturally I'm curious, and I want to find out where it's coming from. So I sit up, and I lean over my bed, and as I look down, I see this little cord plugged into the wall. And from this cord was a little green dot, and this dot shined a great green light on the wall. And I want to emphasize it was absolutely tiny. And so, of course, I'm like, it's a little odd, whatever. I roll over, and I try to ignore it, but I just can't. Because out of the corner of my eye, even though it's behind me, I can always see this light shining on the wall. And even though it was so small, it made a huge difference. Now, if the lights in my room had been turned on, I never would have noticed this light. But because they were off, that tiny light made a huge difference, and it stood out. Now, in here, our church is full of light, and that light being Jesus. It's easy to see him here, but as soon as we step out those doors, we step into a dark room, a dark world. And it can be hard to see him out there. And sometimes we may enjoy sitting in the darkness, and we may not want to be seen. But in the world of darkness, one single light can make a huge difference. By either lighting up someone's path, by giving them guidance, by helping them see where they're going. And being a light in our world can cause a chain reaction of change. And we can inspire and educate others and create a new generation of faithful Christians. Matthew chapter 5, verse 14 says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden." So we need to be the light, be the fire in our world. If we contrast our surroundings, we will stand out and we will make ourselves known. And sadly, I can say that we don't want to fit in with the majority of our world. It's not a place where we want to associate ourselves with. But we need to be able to stand out and make ourselves visible with Jesus. John chapter 8, verse 12. It says, "When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, 'I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, and they will have the light of life.'" Now, sometimes we may get comfortable, like I said, living in the darkness, walking alone. We may enjoy the idea of not having to be seen or be held accountable. But let me ask, if you trip over a couch in the darkness, does it not hurt the same as it does in the light? Of course it does. The pain's still there, the damage is still done. And we may think that we didn't tell anybody, no one saw, it didn't happen. But to God, to Jesus, the light is always on. He sees everything we do. And he offers forgiveness, grace, and he loves us through everything we do. And he shines a light to our path. And we're lucky enough, we have the privilege of reflecting that light from him off of ourselves onto others. We can illuminate their path, give them guidance, a sense of direction. And as he holds our hand, as he walks with us, we can hold others' hands and walk with them and make them not feel alone, make them feel seen. And it's a common misconception. We always think that we have to get up there and do these grand, amazing things. We don't. It's most of the time, we don't need to have a grand gesture or crazy actions. All we need to do is be there. For lots of people, all they need is a helping hand. They just need a presence there with them. In fact, when Wade was reviewing my sermon, he told me a story. Now the story, it consisted of two men, and they were at a tailgate, one of which, the first man, had his tailgate down on his truck, and he was sitting there, and he had a pocket knife in his hand, he was just playing with it. he was sitting alone, and the second man walked past, and he looks over and he sees the first man. And he sees a look of sadness, loneliness, and despair on his face. And he walks over, he sits down on the tailgate, and he asks, "Do you mind if I can borrow your pocket knife?" The first man, of course, thinks this is an odd request, but says, "Sure, why not?" So the second man proceeds to clean his fingernails with the pocket knife. A little weird, but as he cleans his fingernails, he asks him, he says, "How are you doing?" He checks in on him. He says, "How's your day going? How are you doing?" He didn't do anything, nothing crazy. It was a small little gesture. He just checked in on another human being. Now, that's about all there is. They part ways, walk their separate paths, and about 5 years down the road, these two, they reunite, and they just happen to meet up. And the first man looks at the second, and he asks, "Do you remember what you did for me?" And the second man says, "No, I don't." The first man, he proceeds to explain that in the time that he sat down with him, he said, "I was in a really dark place. I didn't feel seen, I felt alone. And I was planning on ending my life." And the first man explains that when you sat down and you asked, "How am I doing?" You asked to clean your fingernails with a pocket knife. I was planning on using that very pocket knife to do it. But you checked on me. You made me feel seen. Changed his life. The second man didn't do anything crazy. He just checked on another guy. And I don't tell this story to, of course, get you down or depressed and sad. I tell this story because it's an amazing example of how one tiny interaction can change the entire course of somebody's entire life. That one gesture, he asked like 2 questions, and it very well may have saved the first man's life, changed the entire course, his walk. It's a great example of how oftentimes we think we have to do a big step, very outgoing gesture. It doesn't. It just needs to be checking up, sending a text, "How are you doing?" Making sure they know they're seen. Now I want you to think of a time where you saw someone who's in the darkness. They needed someone there for them. Let me ask, what did you do? How did you respond? For many, the response may have been inactivity. You didn't do what you should have. And I can personally say myself that there were many times where I didn't respond accordingly. I didn't check in as I should have. But the real question today is, what does God want us to do? How does He want us to respond? As the scriptures say, I can tell you He wants us to be the light. He wants us to shine our light in the world. That tiny little light that even though we may try to ignore it, some people may try to not see it. They always do. It's always there. No matter what you do, you're seen. Be that light, because that light is Jesus. And now I ask, today, are you living in the darkness? Maybe today you're not shining your light as you should be. Maybe you see the light creeping under the door, and yet it remains closed. Today is the day you can open the door. You can let the light cover you and let Jesus wash away your sins. Maybe you just need strength. You need prayers for strength and courage to open the door, to make yourself seen. If any of this applies to you in any way, don't hesitate. Don't think, maybe I shouldn't. Just come on down and we stand and we sing this next song.